The Courage to Speak, written and read by the author, Kara Jones. Chapter 1, Echoes of Doubt. Jordan's dreams were expansive, filling the space beyond the rolling hills and the small town skyline of his childhood. From the small, secluded spot atop the hill where he often retreated, the world seemed boundless. But in the streets below, life moved within well-worn paths of tradition and expectation. Most folks here didn't aspire beyond the borders of their county. They embraced routine and stability. Jordan, however, felt stifled by the predictability, a feeling that tightened around him like the thick, humid air of summer evenings. At the dinner table, his dreams became fodder for debate, a clash between youthful aspiration and seasoned caution. His parents, both products of hard work and harder times, saw Jordan's ambitions as flights of fancy, risking diversions from the safety of conventional work. "Talk doesn't cook the meal," his dad often said in a tone that brooked no argument. A phrase that echoed in the dimming light of their modest kitchen, settling like dust over Jordan's thoughts of a different future. Yet each dismissal drove Jordan to carve out moments of solitude, where he allowed himself to dream without bounds. He wrote speeches that no one else heard, articulating visions of change and progress, his notebook brimming with ideas that felt too large for the smallness of his surroundings. These silent monologues were his rebellion against the confinement of his upbringing, a quiet determination not to let his voice be quelled by the skepticism that clouded his home. This internal struggle was both his burden and his beacon. It led him to seek solace in the forgotten corners of this world, places like his late grandfather's attic, a realm of relics and dust, where the past lingered, untouched and ripe for discovery. It was here, amid the rafters thick with cobwebs, that Jordan would unearth something that whispered of possibilities, a voice from the past that seemed to understand his own yearnings, a dusty, leather-bound journal. Chapter 2, Dust and Discovery. The attic was dim, lit only by the lazy afternoon sun filtering through a small, grimy window. As Jordan sifted through forgotten boxes, each a capsule of his grandfather's life, he found the journal. It was wedged between old military uniforms and faded photographs, its cover cracked and worn as if it had been held in anxious, dreaming hands. Opening it, Jordan discovered the neat handwriting of a man he had only known through others' memories, a man who had once harbored dreams as vast as his own. Reading the entries, Jordan felt a kinship across generations. His grandfather had written of distant lands and people, of speeches he wished he'd delivered and debates he'd imagined leading. These were not just musings, but a blueprint of a man's unfulfilled aspirations. Each page resonated with Jordan, echoing his own suppressed desires and igniting a spark of resolve within him. Here, in his hands, lay proof that the urge to reach beyond one's grasp wasn't new to his bloodline. Inspired by the journal, Jordan began to see his dreams as a legacy rather than a liability. He imagined his grandfather, a young man in the same town, feeling the same constraints and yearning for the same escape. This connection, spanning decades, fortified him. It lent a sacredness to his aspirations, turning them from mere daydreams into a quest to fulfill not only his potential, but also that of the grandfather he'd never truly known. With newfound determination, Jordan sought a tangible outlet for his burgeoning confidence. The local public speaking club, a modest gathering of enthusiasts and dreamers, became his arena. Here he would test his voice, sharpen his words, and perhaps carve a path that could bridge the gap between his dreams and reality. Each session was a step out of his comfort zone, a deliberate challenge to the doubts that had shadowed him for years. Chapter 3: The Challenge. The first night Jordan attended the public speaking club, the air was thick with anticipation and the mildewy scent of the community center's old carpet. As he stood before the small crowd, his voice faltered, the words tumbling out awkwardly. The faces before him were blurred by his anxiety, their features melding into a tapestry of polite yet detached attention. He stumbled through, his conclusion met with a smattering of applause that was both an encouragement and a reminder of how far he had to go. Undeterred, Jordan turned each session into a mission. He pored over books on a rhetoric, studied speeches by famed orators, and practiced in front of a mirror, his reflection a stern audience. Night after night, he honed his craft under the harsh glow of his bedroom lamp. The journal always within reach, its presence a silent promise of his grandfather's unspoken dreams. The words began to flow more naturally, his confidence building with the realization that he could indeed captivate an audience. The community center, once a place of daunting uncertainty, gradually became a stage where Jordan could claim his identity. Each speech was an act of defiance against his ingrained fears of inadequacy and failure. The faces in the audience came into sharper focus, their expressions shifting from polite interest to genuine engagement. Jordan found himself connecting, his words not just heard but felt, their impact reflected in the nods and smiles of his listeners. As the regional contest approached, Jordan's preparation intensified. The stakes were higher, the audience larger, and the competitors more seasoned. But the thrill of challenge outweighed his whisper of fear. His speeches, once rehearsals in solitude, were now declarations of intent. He was ready to prove, not just to his town, but to himself, that his voice mattered, that his dreams were valid, and that he was a force to be reckoned with. Chapter 4: Into the Spotlight. On the day of the contest, Jordan arrived at the venue, his nerves alight with jittery anticipation. The auditorium was vast, the rows of seats filled with expectant faces. Backstage, the murmur of competing voices, the rustle of notes and props, filled the air with palpable tension. Holding his grandfather's journal close, Jordan rehearsed silently, each word a beat in the rhythm of his racing heart. Stepping onto the stage, the lights blinded him momentarily. He blinked into the brightness, the darkness beyond filled with unseen watchers. His first words were shaky, vulnerable, but he pressed on. The familiar of his speech, a lifeline threading through his anxiety. With each paragraph, his steadiness grew, his voice finding strength in the echo of his words across the room. The audience, a mosaic of curious and critical, was transforming before him, from daunting judges to fellow travelers on his journey of expression. His speech unfolded, a narrative of personal challenges and hopes, his words painting pictures of a better future, of understanding the unity. The resonance of his voice grew, not just filling the auditorium, but also into the spaces within him that had long harbored doubts. By the time he reached his conclusion, the room was enveloped in the silence that spoke of respect and recognition. When the applause broke out, it was like a wave rushing over him, carrying away years of self-doubt. It was an affirmation louder than he had ever imagined. As the judges announced his victory, the sound was surreal, a confirmation of his newfound belief in himself and his message. This was more than a win. It was a metamorphosis, the shedding of an old self-doubt and the embracing of a voice that had finally claimed its space in the world. Echoes of triumph. Back on his familiar hill overlooking the town, the horizon seemed to beckon with new promises. Jordan clutched the trophy, a symbol of his victory and transformation. But more importantly, he held his grandfather's journal against his chest, its leather cover warm with the heat of his grip, a tangible connection to the dreams that had transcended generations. He realized now that this was just the beginning. The path ahead would undoubtedly offer new challenges, but he felt equipped to meet them, empowered not just by his achievements, but by the journey itself. The journal, once a repository of unfulfilled dreams, now a testament to the possibility of change, to the impact of daring to voice one's deepest aspirations. Jordan looked back one last time at the small town that had shaped him. Its contours now a part of his narrative, but no longer the entirety of his world. Turning towards the horizon, he stepped forward into a future where his voice would not just echo in empty spaces, but resonate deeply, altering landscapes and lives, including his own. This was his legacy, forged in the echoes of past dreams and the clear, strong timber of his own triumph. The end.